The great hall had fallen completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft crackling of the plasma fire around the throne of cinders. The crown princess of the Dragon Empire was still holding a human janitor. Trillions of beings across the galaxy were watching this moment, and none of them understood what they were seeing. The crystalline ambassador made a sound like breaking glass. It was their version of clearing a throat. "This is highly irregular," he chimed. "The coronation protocol clearly states that the heir must receive the imperial seal directly from the current emperor. This deviation is unprecedented." The Nexer hive mind spoke through all 50 of its bodies at once. Their voices created an eerie harmony. "We calculate a 0.003% probability of this event occurring. Our prediction models require immediate recalibration." The architect of Void, a being made of geometric light patterns, shifted its form in what might have been confusion. "The human. We do not understand the human significance. Explain." Princess Sirith finally released Maria from her embrace. She turned to face the assembled dignitaries, but she kept one hand on Maria's shoulder. Maria looked deeply uncomfortable. She was still holding her datapad in her other hand. "This woman," Sirith announced, her voice ringing through the great hall, "saved my life 3 years ago. She protected me when my own guards abandoned me. She kept me alive for 18 days in a station filled with Void Reapers." A ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. The Void Reapers were feared by every species. Surviving an encounter with them was rare. Surviving 18 days with them was almost impossible. "But that is not why I am doing this," Sirith continued. "I am doing this because of what she taught me. Not through lectures or lessons. Through actions. Through the simple way she lived." The old emperor had lowered himself back onto the throne of cinders. He was watching with great interest. His dim eyes showed more life than they had in years. "When Maria found me, she did not know who I was. She did not know I was a princess. She did not know that saving me could bring her wealth and power. She saved me because I was a scared child alone in the dark. That was the only reason she needed." Maria shifted uncomfortably. "Your Highness, really, this isn't necessary." She shared her food with me equally. Half for her, half for me. Even though she was bigger and needed more. Even though no one would have known if she had taken more. She gave me half because that was fair. Sirith's voice grew stronger. She held me through nightmares. She sang me songs from her homeworld. She made me laugh with silly stories when I was scared. She treated me like I mattered, not because I was royalty, because I was a child who needed care. The hall remained silent. Many of the dignitaries looked confused. These seemed like small things. Why did the princess care so much about small things? After the rescue, my intelligence services spent 3 years tracking her movements. Do you know what I found? Sirith gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the hall. They showed reports, statistics, graphs. The dignitaries looked at the data with growing confusion. Maria Santos has worked on 12 different stations over the past 15 years. Everywhere she goes, the accident rate drops. Equipment failures decrease. Medical emergencies become less common. Sirith pointed at one display. On Kepler Station, she organized off-duty first aid training for maintenance workers. She did this on her own time, without pay, without being asked. That training saved 17 lives during a reactor leak last year. Another display lit up. On Proxima Hub, she noticed the waste recycling system was inefficient. She redesigned it in her spare time. Her design improved efficiency by 40%. The station saved 3 million credits in the first year alone. Do you know how much they paid her for this idea? Silence. Nothing. They thanked her and implemented her design. She never asked for payment. She never complained. She just went back to mopping floors. The crystalline ambassador chimed nervously. This is admirable, perhaps, but surely not worthy of this level of recognition. She is merely performing maintenance duties. Sireth's eyes blazed. Merely? Let me tell you what I learned from 3 years of searching for this woman. I learned that humans are everywhere. They work on stations throughout the hegemony. They take jobs that other species consider beneath them. Cleaning, maintenance, basic medical care, food service. They work for low wages in terrible conditions. And everywhere they go, things get better. She pointed at the Nexer delegation. Your mining colonies hire human maintenance workers. Your productivity reports show a 23% increase in efficiency on colonies with human staff. Did you ever wonder why? The 50 Nexer bodies looked at each other in confusion. It is because humans do not just do their jobs. They notice problems. They fix things without being asked. They help others without expecting reward. They stay late to make sure everything is working properly. Sireth's voice rose. They care about things that are not their responsibility. This is so natural to them that they do not even realize how remarkable it is. Maria finally spoke up. Your Highness, I really don't think I'm special. I just do my job. Any decent person would do the same. Sireth turned to her with a sad smile. That is exactly what makes you special, Maria. You truly believe that. You truly believe that anyone would share their last food with a stranger's child. That anyone would risk their life for someone they just met. That anyone would spend their free time making things better for people who will never thank them. She turned back to the crowd. But that is not true. Most species do not work this way. We Draconians build empires and conquer worlds. But we would not think to redesign a waste system for a station we do not own. The Crystalline Collective creates beautiful art and technology, but they would not organize first aid training for workers in their spare time. The Nexer hive mind calculates optimal solutions, but they would not hold a crying child through nightmares just because the child needed comfort. The hall was very quiet now. Many of the dignitaries were looking at Maria with new eyes. Humans do these things naturally. It is built into them. They cannot help themselves. They see a problem and they want to fix it. They see someone suffering and they want to help. They do not ask what is in it for them. They do not calculate the optimal outcome. They just help. Sireth walked back toward the throne, but she took Maria's hand and brought her along. My father built this empire with fire and strength. Those things have their place. But I have learned that an empire cannot survive on fire alone. Someone has to care about the small things. Someone has to fix the pipes and clean the floors and hold the crying children. Someone has to do the work that no one notices until it is not done. She stood before her father and bowed. I am ready to receive the imperial seal, Father. But I want the galaxy to know what kind of empress I intend to be. I will rule with strength when strength is needed. But I will also remember the lesson a human janitor taught me in a dark tunnel while monsters hunted above us. She looked at Maria with eyes full of old tears and new hope. The worth of a civilization is not measured by its conquests. It is measured by how it treats the people who clean its floors. The old emperor smiled for the first time in years. The planet Draconis Prime was the heart of the greatest empire in the known galaxy. 42 star systems answered to the Dragon Throne. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds bowed to the Draconian rulers. And today, after 3,000 years, the empire would crown a new leader. Ships filled the space around the planet like a cloud of metal insects. Vessels from 17 different species had traveled across the stars to witness this moment. The crystalline beings came in ships made of living glass. The hive mind of Nexer sent a delegation that shared one brain between 50 bodies. The architects of Void arrived in ships that seemed to be made of pure light and mathematics. All of them came to see Princess Sirith become Empress. The Great Hall of the Imperial Palace was the largest enclosed space ever built by any species. Its ceiling disappeared into darkness far above. Its walls were carved from black stone that seemed to drink the light. At the far end stood the throne of cinders, a seat made from materials pulled from dying stars. Real plasma fire burned around it constantly, never dying, never spreading. The hall was filled with thousands of dignitaries. They stood in sections marked by species. The tall, thin crystalline beings chimed softly as they moved. The Nexar representatives stood perfectly still, their eyes moving in unison. Smaller species floated in anti-gravity bubbles. Larger ones had whole sections of floor reinforced. For their weight, every news network in the galaxy was broadcasting the event. Trillions of beings watched from their homes on distant worlds. This was the moment that would shape politics and power for the next 100 years. Emperor Kaloth Vorn sat upon the throne of cinders. He was ancient beyond measure. His scales, once bright as molten gold, had faded to a dull bronze. His wings, which had once carried him across battlefields, lay folded and weak against his back. The fire that burned in every draconian's chest was growing dim in his. Everyone could see it. The Emperor was dying, but he had held on long enough for this. He would see his daughter crowned before his fire went out forever. The great doors at the far end of the hall opened. A wave of whispers passed through the crowd. Princess Sirith Vorn entered the great hall. She was magnificent. Her scales shone like liquid ruby. Her eyes burned with inner fire. She wore armor forged from the compressed hearts of collapsed stars, a gift from her father on her 100th birthday. It weighed as much as a small moon, but she wore it like silk. Her wings, unlike her father's, were strong and full. She walked with the confidence of someone who had been raised to rule worlds. Behind her came a procession of the highest nobles of the empire. Dragon lords and dragon ladies in their finest armor. Generals who had conquered systems. Admirals who commanded fleets that could crack planets open like eggs. They followed their princes toward the throne. The ceremony required Sirith to walk the full length of the great hall. It was a journey of nearly a mile. The path was lined with representatives from every corner of the empire and beyond. Each section she passed would bow or perform their species. Equivalent gesture of respect. The crystalline beings rang like bells. The Nexar lowered all 50 of their shared heads at once. A species of living gas changed color from blue to deep purple as she passed. Everything was proceeding exactly as protocol demanded. Sirith kept walking. Her eyes should have been fixed on her father and the throne. That was tradition. That was proper. But her eyes were moving, searching, looking at the crowd in a way that made the master of ceremonies nervous. She was looking for someone in the far corner of the great hall, where the sanitation access corridors connected to the main chamber. There was a small area that no one important ever noticed. It was where the maintenance workers waited during events. They were there in case something broke or spilled. They were invisible to the great beings who attended such ceremonies. A human woman stood there in gray coveralls. Her name tag said Memsantus. She had brown skin, gray-streaked black hair pulled back in a practical bun, and the kind of tired eyes that came from working double shifts. She was checking something on her datapad. Probably a work schedule. Maybe a maintenance report. She had no idea that the most powerful young being in the galaxy had just spotted her. Princess Sirith was 50 feet from the throne now. Her father had risen, using all his remaining strength to stand and greet his heir. He held the imperial seal in his clawed hand. 100 generations of rulers had worn that seal. Wars had been fought over it. Species had been exterminated for it. Sirith did not take it. Instead, she turned sharply to her left and began to run. The crowd made a sound that was hard to describe. It was the collective gasp of 17 species who had never seen anything so shocking in their lives. The princess was running. Away from the throne. Away from her father. Away from the imperial seal and everything it represented. Her armored boots cracked the obsidian floor with each step. Her wings flared for balance as she pushed through a group of Nexer representatives. The master of ceremonies fainted. 3 crystalline beings cracked from pure shock. She ran straight to the maintenance corner. Maria Santos looked up from her datapad, just in time to see a draconian princess in star-forged armor sprinting toward her. She did not have time to bow. She did not have time to kneel. She did not have time to do anything at all. Sirith crashed into her with enough force to knock the datapad from her hands. The princess wrapped her armored arms around the human woman and held on like she was drowning, and Maria was the only solid thing in the universe. "You came back," Sirith whispered. Her voice was nothing like the commanding tone of a future empress. It was small, broken, young. "You actually came back." Maria Santos stood frozen. Millions of eyes, biological and mechanical and crystalline, stared at her. Trillions more watched through cameras. The draconian emperor still stood by his throne. The imperial seal still extended in his shaking hand. Completely forgotten, the human woman slowly raised her arms and wrapped them around the princess. "Hey there, little star," Maria said softly. "It's okay. I'm here." The galaxy did not understand what they were seeing. The dignitaries did not know why this was happening. The news networks had no explanation to give their viewers. But everyone, from the lowest worker to the highest noble, could see one thing clearly. The future empress of the Dragon Throne was crying in the arms of a human janitor, and the human was holding her like she had done it before. 3 years before the coronation, Maria Santos was mopping the same hallway she had mopped 1,000 times before. Mining Station Sigma 7 was not an exciting place to work. It floated in contested space, far from any planet, pulling valuable minerals from asteroids. The station was old. The equipment was older. Maria spent most of her days fixing things that should have been replaced years ago. She was 47 years old. She had been a janitor for 23 of those years. Before that, she had been a nurse's assistant on a colony ship. Before that, she had worked in her mother's restaurant on Earth. Maria had never been important. She had never been rich. She had never been powerful, but she was good at her job. She noticed things other people missed. She fixed problems before they became emergencies. She knew every pipe, every wire, every air duct in whatever station she worked on. People did not notice Maria Santos, but they noticed when things worked properly. That was enough for her. The alarm started screaming at exactly 14:47 station time. Maria did not panic. She had heard alarms before. Usually they meant a small fire or a pressure leak. She calmly put away her mop and checked the emergency channel on her communication device. Her blood went cold. Void Reapers. A full raiding party. Already inside the outer defense perimeter. Everyone who worked in space knew about the Void Reapers. They were an insectoid species that did not trade, did not negotiate, and did not take prisoners. They harvested sentient beings for purposes no one fully understood. When Void Reapers came, you ran. If you could not run, you died. Those were the only options. The station erupted into chaos. People ran for the escape pods. The evacuation was supposed to be orderly. It was not. Maria saw people pushing each other. She saw a crystalline being shatter against a wall when someone shoved too hard. She saw children crying for parents who were already gone. Maria went to the pod allocation terminal. She entered her employee number. The screen flashed red. Maintenance personnel nitrogen monoxide pod allocation report to emergency station. She was not surprised. There were never enough pods. Important people got the pods. Scientists, engineers, administrators, janitors, did not make the list. She should have been afraid. Maybe she was. But fear was a luxury she could not afford right now. She had work to do. Maria made her way to her emergency station near storage, Bay 12. Her job during evacuation was to make sure the emergency seals were working. It was a useless job, really. If the Reapers got inside, no seal would save anyone. But she did it anyway. That was who she was. The storage bay was dark. Emergency power only. Maria used her flashlight to check the seals. All green. All working. She was about to move on when she heard something. Crying. Small, terrified crying. Maria followed the sound to a corner of the bay where emergency supplies were kept. Behind a stack of water containers, she found a child. The child was draconian. A young female, barely past her first molting. Her scales were still soft, the deep red color not yet fully developed. Her wings were tiny useless things on her back. She wore expensive clothes that were now torn and dirty. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Hey there," Maria said softly. She crouched down to the child's level. "What's your name?" The child did not answer. She was shaking too hard to speak. "I'm Maria. I work here. I'm going to help you, okay? Can you tell me where your parents are? Your guardians?" The child finally managed to speak. "They left. The soldiers. They were supposed to protect me, but they left." Maria felt a cold anger in her chest. She pushed it down. There would be time for anger later. Maybe. Okay, that's okay. You're with me now. I'm not going to leave you. Promise? The child's voice was so small. Promise. Maria quickly assessed the situation. The escape pods were gone. The Reapers were coming. The station's remaining population was either dead, hiding, or about to be harvested. But Maria knew this station better than anyone. She knew places that were not on any official map. She took the child's hand. "We're going to play a hiding game, okay? I know the best hiding spots on this whole station. The monsters will never find us." The child nodded. She held Maria's hand so tightly it hurt. For 3 weeks, Maria kept them alive. She knew the maintenance tunnels that ran between the walls. She knew which air ducts connected where. She knew where the emergency food caches were hidden. She knew which sections of the station the Reapers had already searched and would not return to. During the day, they hid in the narrow spaces between walls. Maria would tell stories to keep the child calm. She learned that the child's name was Sirith. She learned that Sirith liked stories about brave heroes. She learned that Sirith had never eaten emergency ration bars before and thought they were disgusting. At night, when the Reapers were less active, Maria would venture out to find supplies. Water was the biggest problem. She rigged a system to collect condensation from the air recyclers. It produced barely enough for 2 people, but it was enough. She shared everything equally. Half her food, half her water. The child was more important than she was. Maria did not think about this as a sacrifice. It was just what you did. The child had nightmares every night. Maria held her through each one. She sang songs her mother had sung to her. Old Earth songs that had no meaning this far from home. But they seemed to help. On the 18th day, the Imperial Rescue Fleet arrived. They found the station infested with Reapers. They spent 2 days clearing it. When they finally reached the maintenance tunnels, they found something unexpected. A human woman and a draconian child. Both alive, both healthy. The child refused to let go of the human's hand. It took the fleet commander 3 hours to figure out who the child was. When he did, he nearly had a heart attack. Princess Sirith Vorn, 3rd in line for the Dragon Throne, sent to this backwater station for a cultural education experience. Left behind by her coward guards who were now facing Execution. The fleet commander offered Maria anything she wanted: money, land, a title, a position in the imperial household. Name it, and it was hers. Maria asked for only one thing: a ticket to Kepler Station. She had a contract there. They were expecting her. Young Syrah screamed when Maria left. She begged the soldiers to stop her. She promised Maria anything the Empire could offer. But Maria just smiled sadly and patted the child's head. "You're going to be okay, little star. You're going to be a great leader someday. You don't need me." She left. The princess cried for 3 days, and somewhere in the back of her young mind, she made a promise. She would find the human woman again, no matter how long it took. The coronation was completed 3 hours later. Syrah received the imperial seal from her father's trembling claws. The plasma fire of the throne of cinders roared in recognition of its new mistress. The dignitaries bowed and chimed and harmonized their acceptance. It was done. The Dragon Empire had a new empress, but the galaxy was still talking about the janitor. News networks across 17 species were running the footage on repeat. The moment when the princess ran. The embrace. The speech about small things. Analysts and commentators tried to explain what it meant. Most of them failed. They did not understand humans well enough to understand what they had witnessed. That night, after the ceremonies were finished and the dignitaries had returned to their ships, a servant came to find Maria Santos. "The Emperor wishes to see you," the servant said. "The old Emperor, I mean. He is still alive, though not for much longer." Maria followed the servant through corridors that grew increasingly private. Security checkpoints scanned her at every turn. She was still wearing her gray coveralls. She had refused all offers of finer clothing. This was who she was. She would not pretend to be something else. The Emperor's private chamber was not what she expected. It was small, simple. The walls were bare stone without decoration. A medical bed sat in the center, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. The old dragon lay on the bed, connected to tubes and wires that kept his failing body functioning. He dismissed his guards with a wave of one claw. They hesitated. No one had been alone with the Emperor in 200 years. But he growled at them, and they left. Maria stood awkwardly near the door. She was not sure of the proper protocol. Did she bow? Kneel? Wait for permission to speak? "Come closer, human," the Emperor said. His voice was weak but still carried the echo of ancient power. "My eyes are not what they once were. I want to see the face of the woman who changed my daughter." Maria walked to the side of the bed. Up close, the Emperor looked even more ancient. His scales were cracked and faded. His eyes, once bright enough to burn, were dim and clouded. The fire inside him was almost out. "You could have ransomed her," the Emperor said. "My daughter. When you found her on that station, you could have contacted the Reapers and sold her location. They would have paid handsomely for a draconian princess." Maria felt her stomach turn at the thought. "That never occurred to me, Your Majesty." "I know. That is what I find so fascinating." The Emperor studied her face. "You could have taken her supplies and saved yourself. One person can survive longer than two. You knew you were going to die on that station. Taking her food would have given you better odds. She was just a kid. She needed to eat. She was a stranger, a member of a species that has conquered and destroyed human colonies in the past. We have not always been kind to your people." Maria shrugged. She was still just a kid. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. His breathing was labored. Each breath seemed to cost him effort. "I have lived for 700 years, he finally said. "I have conquered 12 star systems personally. I have ordered the destruction of worlds. I have made decisions that killed billions. This is what it means to rule the Dragon Empire. We are creatures of fire and power. We respect strength above all things." He coughed. The machines around him beeped in alarm, then settled. "But your species, you humans, you do something we do not understand. You call it different things. Compassion, kindness, decency. My scholars have tried to explain it. They say it is an evolutionary adaptation. They say humans survived on your harsh world by cooperating in ways other species did not. Perhaps that is true, but I do not think it explains everything." Maria said nothing. She was not sure what to say. "My daughter was raised to be strong," the Emperor continued. "She was trained in combat from the moment she could walk. She studied strategy in politics and war. She was taught that power comes from domination, that an empire must be feared to survive." He paused. "But in 3 weeks with you, she learned something we never taught her. Something we could not teach her because we did not understand it ourselves." "What was that, Your Majesty?" "That strangers deserve care simply because they exist." The Emperor's dim eyes found hers. "You did not protect my daughter because of what you might gain. You did not share your food because you expected reward. You did not hold her through nightmares because it was your job. You did it because you saw someone who needed help, and helping was the natural thing to do." Maria felt uncomfortable with this analysis. "I really just did what anyone would do." "No." The Emperor's voice was firm despite his weakness. "That is exactly what my daughter said you would say. And that is exactly why you are so important. You truly believe that your behavior is normal. You truly believe that any person would do what you did. But that is not true. Most beings would not. Most beings calculate costs and benefits. Most beings protect themselves first. You did not. You cannot even understand why that is remarkable." The machines beeped. The Emperor closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength. "I am dying, Maria Santos. By tomorrow, my fire will be gone. My daughter will sit on the throne of cinders alone. She will command the most powerful military force in the galaxy. She will make decisions that affect trillions of lives." He opened his eyes again. "She will need an advisor. Not a military advisor or a political advisor. She has plenty of those. She needs someone who sees the galaxy differently. Someone who notices the small problems. Someone who cares about the people who clean floors and fix pipes and do the work that no one appreciates." Maria's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, I'm not qualified for anything like that. I'm just a janitor. I don't know anything about politics or empires. You know something more important." The Emperor reached out with one trembling claw and touched her hand. His scales were cold. The fire inside him was almost completely gone. "You know how to care about people you have never met. You know how to fix problems without being asked. You know how to do the right thing when no one is watching." He smiled. It was a strange expression on a face built for intimidation. The answer to most problems is not more fire. It is not more strength. It is someone willing to do the unglamorous work, to clean up the messes, to fix what is broken quietly and without praise. His grip on her hand tightened slightly. To stay when everyone else runs. Maria felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not fully understand why. "My daughter spent 3 years searching for you. She used intelligence resources meant for tracking enemy fleets. She personally reviewed thousands of employment records. She never stopped looking. Do you know why?" Maria shook her head. "Because you were the first person who ever treated her like she mattered for who she was, not what she was. You held her like she was precious, not because she was a princess, but because she was scared. That is something power cannot buy. That is something fire cannot create." The Emperor released her hand and sank back into his bed. "Stay, Maria Santos. Stay and help my daughter build an empire worth ruling. Help her remember that the smallest kindness can change the universe. Help her see the people that power usually makes invisible. Maria looked at the dying emperor. She thought about Kepler Station, where she had a contract waiting. She thought about the life she had built, small and quiet and unremarkable. Then she thought about a scared little girl hiding behind water containers, asking if Maria would promise not to leave her. "Okay," Maria said quietly. "I'll stay." The emperor closed his eyes. A small smile remained on his face. He died the next morning, but he died knowing that his daughter would not rule alone. 1 year after the coronation, the galaxy had changed in ways no one expected. Empress Sirith Vorn stood before the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from every species in the hegemony filled the massive chamber. The crystalline beings chimed softly. The Nexer hive mind observed through 50 identical faces. The architects of void floated as patterns of light. And in a seat that had never existed before, right next to the imperial throne, sat Maria Santos. Her official title was Imperial Director of Practical Solutions. It was a title that had never existed before because no one had ever thought to create it. Maria still wore her gray coveralls, though they were made of finer material now. She still carried a mop, though this one was ceremonial, carved from the same star metal as the Empress's crown. Many dignitaries thought it was a joke at first. A human janitor as a senior advisor to the Dragon Empress? Ridiculous. Insulting. A sign that the new Empress was not fit to rule. They stopped laughing after the first few months. The Human Integration Initiative, Empress Sirith announced to the Assembly, has been in effect for 1 standard year. I am pleased to report the results. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. Charts and graphs and statistics filled the air. Workplace accidents across the hegemony have decreased by 34%. Medical response times have improved by 40%. Equipment failure rates are down by 28%. Overall productivity is up by 19%. The dignitaries murmured in surprise. These were significant numbers. This was not achieved through new technology or new policies. It was achieved by doing something very simple. Sirith smiled. We hired more humans. The Human Integration Initiative had placed human workers on stations throughout the hegemony, not as soldiers or scientists or administrators, as maintenance workers, nurses, teachers, emergency responders, food service staff. The jobs that other species did not want. And slowly, everything got better. Maria had designed the program herself. She understood something that the great empires had forgotten. The difference between a functioning society and a failing one was not in the palaces and warships. It was in the small things. Clean corridors, working equipment, someone to help when you fell down. We have also seen unexpected secondary effects, Sirith continued. Shall I show them? More displays appeared. The Void Reapers have attacked 17 colonies this year. 14 of those colonies had human-organized community defense networks. All 14 successfully repelled or evacuated before significant losses. Sirith's eyes gleamed. The humans did not wait for military rescue. They organized themselves. They trained their neighbors. They built shelters and warning systems in their spare time. Because that is what humans do. The military admirals in the audience shifted uncomfortably. These were not official defense programs. These were janitors and nurses organizing their communities on their own time. The Crystalline Collective has reported a major breakthrough in diplomatic relations with the silicate minds of the outer reaches. This was achieved after they hired human interpreters who actually listened to silicate grievances instead of just translating words. Sirith gestured at the crystalline delegation. 300 years of conflict, resolved because a human interpreter thought to ask how the silicates were feeling. The crystalline ambassador chimed in what might have been. Embarrassment. The Nexer hive mind has reported something unprecedented. Sirith turned to the 50 Nexer faces. Would you like to share it with the assembly? The Nexer representatives looked at each other. Something strange passed between them. They had always moved in perfect unison before. Now they hesitated. Then one of them stepped forward. Just one, separate from the others. My designation is Nexer 7, the individual said. I am me. This is new. This is confusing. But it is also wonderful. The assembly went completely silent. The Nexer hive mind had never produced individuals before. They shared one consciousness across all bodies. Individual identity was not supposed to be possible for them. Human workers on our colonies introduced a concept called personal preferences. Nexer 7 continued. They asked us what foods we enjoyed, what colors we liked, what made us happy. These questions made no sense to the hive mind, but they made me think. And thinking made me. The Nexer representative bowed to Maria Santos. We're still connected to the hive mind, but we are also becoming ourselves. This is the gift the humans gave us, the gift of wondering who we might be. Maria shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had just asked some Nexer workers if they wanted cream in their coffee. She had not expected to start a philosophical revolution. The architect of void spoke next. Its geometric form pulsed with light. We have observed the humans for 1 year. We have analyzed their behaviors. We have attempted to understand their impact. The patterns shifted. We have reached a conclusion. The assembly waited. Humans are not remarkable because of strength or intelligence or technology. They are remarkable because of something we do not have a word for in our language. The closest translation is this. They assume that strangers deserve care. The light patterns flickered. This assumption changes everything it touches. It transforms communities. It creates trust where none existed. It builds connections that power cannot break. We do not fully understand it, but we have observed its effects, and we believe it may be the most powerful force in the galaxy. Maria Santos stood up. Every eye in the assembly turned to her. I think you're all making this too complicated, she said. We just do what needs doing. That's all. We see a problem, we fix it. We see someone hurting, we help. It's not some grand philosophy. It's just how you're supposed to act. She looked around at the assembled dignitaries, the most powerful beings in known space, all staring at a janitor in gray coveralls. My mom used to say something when I was little. She said the world is like a big house. Everyone lives in it together. And everyone has to help clean up. Not because someone tells you to. Not because you get rewarded. But because it's your house too. And you want it to be nice. She shrugged. That's it. That's the whole secret. Treat the galaxy like your house. Take care of it. Take care of the people in it. Even the ones you don't know. Especially the ones nobody else is taking care of. The Empress Sirith Vorn smiled at her old friend. The woman who had held her through nightmares. The woman who had shared her last food. The woman who had refused every reward except the chance to keep helping. The Dragon Empire has stood for 3,000 years, Sirith announced. It has survived through fire and strength and the power to destroy. But today, I declare a new path. We will continue to be strong. But we will also learn to be kind. We will learn to see the invisible people. We will learn to do the work that no one notices. She raised the imperial seal. We will learn to be more human. The galaxy changed that day. Not through conquest or war or great discoveries. It changed because someone finally pointed out what should have been obvious all along. Someone has to take out the trash. Someone has to comfort the scared child. Someone has to stay when staying is hard. Humans had been doing this work all along. They had just never expected thanks for it. 10,000 years later, historians would look back at this moment as the beginning of a new age. Not the age of dragons or the age of stars. They would call it the age of compassion. And it all started because a janitor shared her sandwich with a scared little girl. Maria Santos never thought of herself as important. She never understood why the galaxy made such a fuss over simple decency. She kept wearing her gray coveralls. She kept carrying her ceremonial mop. She kept fixing things that were broken and helping people who needed help. And every day, the Empress of the Dragon Throne would find a moment to visit her old friend. They would sit together and drink tea and remember the dark tunnels of a dying station where a human taught a dragon what it meant to truly care. You know, Maria said once, near the end of her life, I still think anyone would have done what I did. Empress Sirith Vorn, ruler of 42 star systems, conqueror of worlds, holder of the Imperial Seal, reached out and took the old woman's hand. That, she said, is exactly why we need more humans. And so the galaxy learned the greatest lesson of all. Power was not the answer to everything. Sometimes, the answer was simply someone who cared enough to stay. Someone who would hold a crying child in the dark. Someone who would share their last sandwich. Someone who would never, ever leave. The humans called it love. The galaxy was still learning the word. But they were getting better at it every day. And somewhere, in every corner of the hegemony, a human was mopping a floor, fixing a pipe, holding a hand, and making the universe just a little bit kinder than it was before. That was enough. That was always enough. That was everything.